A very warm good morning to one and all. Myself Adit Nair, and in this new video of my cricket dreams, we will be looking at a new episode of the decline of the Mughal Empire, chapter episode 3. So, in my previous videos, I had talked about the later Mughals and we have also looked in detail about their capabilities and capacities, and we had also talked in brief about the reasons why the Mughal Empire declined. But in this video, we will be looking in detail about the reasons why the Mughal Empire declined. The causes of the decline of the Mughal Empire can be mainly divided into two main broad characteristics. These were the internal weaknesses as well as the external weaknesses. So, in this video of My Cricket Dreams, I will be talking about internal weaknesses that resulted in the decline of the Mughal Empire in the 18th century Indian polity. Internal weaknesses. First off, the Mughal Empire was a war state in its core. Its vitality depended ultimately on its military power. The emperor stood at the apex of this broad structure, followed by the military aristocracy, followed by the Mughal army. Multiple issues emerged at all these three levels of this broad military structure. These may be understood under the following titles. Aurangzeb's misguided policies. The expansion of the Mughal Empire under Aurangzeb only resembled an inflated balloon. The Mughal Empire had expanded beyond the point of effective control, and its vastness only tended to weaken the center. Aurangzeb failed to realize that the vast Mughal Empire depended on the willing support of the people. His policy of religious intolerance antagonized the Rajputs, Sikhs, Chars, and the Marathas alike and pushed them into open rebellion. Aurangzeb's mistaken policy of continuous war in the Deccan against the Marathas drained the resources of the empire, broke the bask of Aurangzeb, whose reign marked the beginning of the end of the Mughal Empire. Weak successors. The government of the Mughals was a personal despotism, and its success depended on the character of the reigning monarch. The later Mughals proved to be weak and incapable. They became victims of various court conspiracies and intrigues of the faction-ridden nobles. They proved to be inefficient generals and administrators who were incapable of suppressing revolts. Third reason, wars of succession and role of kingmakers. In the absence of a definite law of succession, there usually occurred a war of succession among the Mughal princes. After the death of Bahadur Shah in the year 1712, the rival claimants to the throne were actually being used as tools by the leaders of rival factions to promote their own personal interests in the court. For instance, if we are looking at Zulfikar Khan acted as the kingmaker in the War of Succession which followed after 1712. From 1730 to 1720, the Saeed brothers acted as kingmakers and were actually instrumental in appointing 4 kings to the throne. After them, Mir Muhammad Amin and Asaf Jah Nizam al-Mulk acted as kingmakers. This actually weakened the stability of the Mughal government and fostered partisanship at the cost of patriotism. Fourth reason, degeneration of the Mughal nobility or military aristocracy. In the late 16th century, Akbar had organized this aristocracy or the ruling class through the Mansabdari system. The Mansabdars were appointed by the emperor himself on the basis of personal loyalty to the emperor. They were required to maintain a given number of savars and were often paid in the form of jagir. With time, the Mansabdari system became hereditary and the officers of the state became a close preserve of the selected few. It also became a closed corporation of nobles belonging to certain ethno-religious groups, the most powerful being the Irani and the Turani groups, and gave no opportunity of promotion to capable men belonging to other classes. The degeneration of the Mughal rulers further added to the degeneration of the nobility. Many nobles discarded the discipline of military life and took to luxurious living. They spent huge sums of money in order to keep large houses, maintaining a big staff of servants, etc., and indulged in other forms of pomp and show. Such habits of extravagant living drained their limited financial resources and weakened their morality. Now these nobles rivaled each other not in gallantry but in flamboyance and flattery. Such degeneration that crippled the later Mughal nobility ensured that the state was now deprived of able administrators and military leaders. Fifth reason, shifting loyalty of the zamindars. The zamindars and the nobles were the two classes that shared state power with the emperor. The zamindars or the landlords were the hereditary owners of the lands and were variously known as Rajas, Thakurs or Deshmukhs. They played an important role in the collection of revenue and local administration. These zamindars also helped the nobility to take advantage of the weakness of the empire and to establish autonomous states for themselves. The Jagirdari crisis and resulting court factions. The Jagirdari crisis was a massive economic crisis that took place especially in the 18th century Mughal Empire. The Jagirdari crisis is said to have increased during the last years of Aurangzeb, mainly because of the Deccan Wars. The Jagir crisis is believed to have led to an unhealthy competition among the nobles in order to have control over good Jagirs. Group politics in the Mughal court became an order of the day, each group wanting to have influence over the emperor in order to get access to good Jagirs. Proximity of any particular group to the emperor naturally alienated the others, and this gradually affected the personal bonds of loyalty between the emperor and his nobility. Such a nobility no longer espoused the cause of the empire. They stood maintaining the required number of soldiers and horses and became more interested in carving out their own autonomous states instead of serving the needs of the Mughal Empire. Politicking at the imperial court reached its height after the death of Bahadur Shah in the year 1712. The reigns of Jahandar Shah 1712 to 1713, Farooq Shah 1713 to 1719, and Muhammad Shah 1719 to 1748 were the most intrigue-ridden ones. The Irani group was led by Asad Khan and his son Zulfikar Khan. The Turani group was led by Ghazi-ud Khan, Feroz Jung III and his son Nizam al-Mulk, and the Hindustani group was led by Saeed brothers. Each faction tried to win the emperor to its viewpoint and poisoned his ears against the other factions. Though these factions were formed based on family relations, yet personal interest played a very dominating role. Military weakness. The Mughal military, surprisingly, was also infested with some inherent weaknesses. It was organized in a kind of feudal style where soldiers owed greater allegiance to the Mansabdari rather than the emperor and fostered conditions of indiscipline and revolt. The degeneration of the military aristocracy led to the weakening of the Mughal army as well. There was a lamentable dearth of able commanders, effective supervision, military reform, and new technology. The weakness of the military invited both internal as well as external challenges. For instance, the Marathas under Shivaji repeatedly challenged Aurangzeb's rule. After his death, the Maratha depredations increased, and in 1738 they even plundered the suburbs of Delhi. This was followed by the Persian invasion under Nadir Shah 1739 and the sack of the Delhi, which was an enormous blow to the prestige of the empire. Empty treasure. Shah Jahan's zeal for construction had already depleted the treasury, which was further drained by Aurangzeb's long wars in the Deccan. The military marches also destroyed standing crops in the Deccan, and whatever little was left was destroyed by Maratha raiders. The peasants began to give up agriculture and also went on to take to the life of plunder and robbery. Under the later Mughals, the financial condition further deteriorated even as autonomous states gradually stopped the payment of revenue to the center. Political upheavals and lavish living of the emperors and nobles continued, which further acted as a massive strain to the already strained financial condition of the Mughal Empire. The last internal weakness which ultimately resulted in the decline of the Mughal Empire was the size of the empire and rise of regional powers. The Mughal Empire, just like I said before, had become too large and unwieldy to be controlled by any ruler from one center, especially under medieval conditions of transport and communications. During Aurangzeb's rule itself, powerful regional groups like the Sikhs, Jats, Rajputs, and Marathas defied the Mughal authority in a bid to carve out their own kingdoms. Continuous struggle between the Mughals and these regional powers actually weakened the empire considerably and contributed to its decline. So that's all in this video. In this video, we have talked about the various reasons. We have talked about top 10 internal weaknesses of the Mughal Empire, which ultimately resulted in the decline of this massive empire. So in my next video, we will be talking about the external factors which resulted in the decline of the Mughal Empire. Before, we will be looking into, and after we look at the external factors, we will be going at a new chapter, that is the rise of the autonomous states. We will, at next chapter, we will be looking in detail with some regional powers like Marathas, Sikhs, Jats, etc. So please stay tuned. Thank you and have a very nice day.